Give me 1 second. We have a virtual policy I have to read. This meeting is being conducted remotely pursuant to Executive Order 202.1 related to federal, state, and local guidelines relating to COVID-19 virus. Members, staff, and applicants are participating in a virtual meeting via Zoom. This virtual meeting is being broadcast live on the town's YouTube channel, is being recorded and will be later transcribed in accordance with Executive Order 202.1. For those participating tonight, please note there may be a 30-second delay between this meeting and the YouTube broadcast. Board members, staff, and other participants are requested to mute themselves when not speaking to reduce interference. Applicants will be placed on mute until their item is up for consideration. Applicants are free to remain in the meeting on mute after their item is complete, or they may leave. Adam Migelski of the Planning and Zoning Department is the Zoom meeting host and will admit participants, mute, unmute participants, monitor the chat box, and working with me, generally manage the meeting. Text placed in the chat box will be read aloud and otherwise addressed by Adam or myself during the course of the meeting. During the course of the meeting, in order to keep the broadcast and discussion clear, I'll call on members to offer comments during discussion of agenda items. Members may also request to speak via chat box. Finally, members can unmute themselves to offer comment if urgent and as needed, but are encouraged to wait until they're called upon. I think that's it, right, Adam? Yep. All right. So with that, I will ask folks to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag of the United States of America, and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty
and justice
for all.
Okay. So, welcome to 2021, everyone. I appreciate everyone hopping on. Let's get into a new year here at the planning board. So one thing I'm going to start with, we do have a new board member, John Conway. He comes to us from the Zoning Board of Appeals. So excited to have him on board. John, I will tell you, I think, I have a biased opinion, but I think we have a very strong planning board with, very diverse backgrounds amongst different people, but a lot of people with many years living in the town. And certainly in the past year, we've made, not even the past year, but, I've been on here for 8 years and, I think we've made a lot of progress. So look forward to you joining us and, continuing that progress.
Welcome.
And then as a side to that, we can't hear John, but I also want to thank Nancy Kupiak for her service. Her term was up. She was with us for a number of years. She provided a lot to the board, I think. I really enjoyed her and Ralph going at it during meetings, sitting next to each other. That was, I really enjoyed that. And then she also provided a lot of work in the natural resources work group. She devoted a lot of time that she wasn't paid for. She volunteered for it. So I do thank Nancy for that. I guess now we're going to jump into the organizational items. Bear with me because I'm just trying to find files on my computer. We don't have to go through anything for me, Joe, or Allison. We've all been appointed by the town board. As far as organizational items, meetings are going to be held twice per month on the second, fourth Wednesday of each month. Meetings are going to commence at 7 p.m. in the town courtroom or community room or via Zoom or potentially the Red Barn. As far as consultants, at the January 4th, 2021 organizational meeting, the town board appointed a number of town designated engineers that will support the planning board reviewing projects. And I think everyone has that document to see who those engineers are, but it's not necessary for us to vote on that. I would be remiss to say that I'm happy to see Joe back and Allison. I'm pretty sure they brought them both back to make sure I don't screw up. Then the acceptance of the meeting calendar. So the Town of East Greenbush planning, so I'm going to make a motion that the Town of East Greenbush Planning Board hereby approves the proposed 2021 meeting calendar. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Horn.
Roll call as follows. Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Panton. He muted. I'll come back. Mr. Viola,
And I would also say for the planning board members, if for some reason you're having audio issues, maybe type in the chat section. I don't know. Joe, is that okay?
Yeah, I think that should be fine as long as we can collect their vote.
Don, you're on mute. I see his mouth moving. I just don't hear him. Man, get me back to the red barn.
John, you sent your message to me only. John votes yes, just so you guys know.
thank you. How about Ralph?
Can't hear him either. Ralph doesn't appear to be on mute.
All right, Mr. Bergman.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Miss Horn.
Yes.
Okay, so we're just waiting on Don and Ralph.
We at least got 4 votes, right?
Yeah. All right, motion carried.
It's mute.
Oh,
Hey,
there's. Oh, Ralph said yes.
Can you hear me, Allison?
Can hear you now. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
this might be our quickest meeting because we can't hear anyone, or it might be our longest meeting because we're all going to try to figure this out. So I think that's all we, oh no, vice chairperson. So I'm going to make a motion that the Town of East Greenbush Planning Board hereby appoints Jim Moore as the vice chairperson in the absence of the planning board chairman. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Panton, beat Mr. Bergman by a millisecond.
Roll call as follows. Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Miss Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Let the record reflect the thumbs up.
I was going to say, can we do thumbs up, thumbs down?
Motion carried 6-0. I didn't
I-
see him on my screen.
Really, this year I got a COVID test and they just stand outside your car and flip pages. So we should just get a yes or a no. All right, so next we're going to jump into 1918 Pheasant Hollow, 2670 Phillips Road for a 10-lot cluster subdivision, proposed plat amendment. Is Steve on?
No, if I may, Matt, Mr. Chairperson, Steve is not, so Steve's not ready with the proposed amendment. The background on this is as they got into constructing the force main, I think it's a 1.5 inch at that point, along Phillips Road, close to the at the southerly part of the development, close to the golf course. They, I believe they hit some rock or unfavorable subsurface conditions that caused them to deviate in away from the road, away from Phillips. And so they, the Commissioner of Public Works and the town's designated engineer signed off on that. And we need the plat to catch that up because it's, I believe, I'm trying to remember the distance. It might have been 10 feet. I think there was a separation issue as well with the water line there. So, but the short of it is that we are expecting Steve to come back with a modified plat showing the new easement proposed alignment at some point. He wasn't ready for this meeting.
All right, so we're not going to take any action on it.
No.
All right. Any comments, questions from the board? To be quite honest, we're starting 2021 off well. I mean, we didn't have a meeting in 2020 without Steve Hart. Steve, if you're watching, that was a joke. All right, with that, we'll move on to 2007 4th 282 Hayes Road for a minor 2-lot subdivision. They are looking for a proposed 90-day extension. So Adam, you want to review that or go over this?
Yeah. So they got approved conditionally back in July, and they didn't pursue the conditions or plat modifications for a number of months. So the subdivision regulations require that the plat be filed within 180 days. The board, if the board feels it's warranted, 90-day extensions may be granted. So their conditional approval expires on the 18th of this month. As it's noted in the proposed resolution, they did send a revised plat and some of the other documentation that we've been looking for, like the easement. If you remember, there's a shared driveway, and so they needed to put an easement on that. They sent that documentation to us. We reviewed it. They sent it on, I think, on the 6th. I took a look at it this afternoon, had a few comments on it, but they should be pretty close to being ready to satisfy the conditions and get it filed. But just in the interest of making sure that they're good to go and they can get their documents filed, the 90-day extension seemed to be the best approach to allow them to get not have to come back and allow the chair to sign the plat in accordance with the regulations. So in this case, the point, I think the bottom line is, they submitted a revised plat very recently. So it'll just be another week and a half or so before they satisfy those conditions, I think. So they're moving, but they're just not done yet.
So John, just for your sake, as Adam said, this is a procedural, maybe you already know this, just a procedural detail in the zoning law where, if they don't file within a certain amount of time, they have to come back and grant an extension. The project was approved by the planning board. I don't personally have an issue with this. Deer Pond was one thing, but these are just folks that are trying to, build a smaller house and move out of their large houses. They're getting a little bit older. That's my 2 cents. And certainly they're under the zoning, they're meeting the zoning law. Deer Pond really wasn't. But I'm just gonna, since we're on Zoom, I'm just gonna roll through a list and just, get an opinion. So I'm gonna start with Ralph.
Yeah, I have no issues. I think it's fine.
All right. Chris?
Yeah, I think it's fine also.
Kurt?
Yeah, no issues. Okay to go.
John?
I'm okay.
John? No, I can't hear you. So it looks like he's typing, so he might chat something. Adam, did he send you a message?
No, I didn't, John, I didn't get anything if you sent it. John, you could share your screen too if that's another way to, communicate.
I guess I would say, John, if you want to give a thumbs up, or if you have comments, give a thumbs up. If you're okay with it, give us a thumbs up. Kurt, is that a new hutch? You're on mute.
Yeah,
I just rearranged the beer mugs,
Was it-
and the wine glass that I'm drinking from is out of sight this time.
is that-
John is asking,
Luckily, I put pants on when we stood up for the president.
Yeah.
John is asking if this will lead to a minor subdivision.
No, this was already an approved minor subdivision. This is just, well, it'll finalize a minor subdivision. Is that accurate, Adam?
Yeah, yeah.
So the 2-lot subdivision has already been approved and vetted by the town. And this is just the process to file it with the county, and then I can sign it to formalize that.
Yeah, they have 180 days to do the conditions. Yeah, John, yeah.
We got the thumbs up. We're good.
John said he's no problem with the extension.
All right. So with that, I'll make a motion for the 4th minor 2-lot subdivision. Whereas the Town of East Grimmer Planning Board granted conditional plat approval of the above mentioned subdivision on July 22nd, 2020. And whereas the conditional plat approval dated July 22nd, 2020 required the applicant to satisfy several conditions within the 180 calendar days of the resolution. And whereas in accordance with Article 4, Section 3 of the town subdivision regulations, the final plat and other supplementary documents shall be filed with the clerk of the planning board within 180 days of the conditional plat approval. And whereas the applicant submitted on January 8, 2021, a proposed minor subdivision plat addressing the conditions applied by the planning board in its July 22nd, 2020 conditional plat approval. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town of East Greenwich Planning Board finds that an extension is warranted in order for the applicant to comply with such conditions and requirements are to be stated in its July 22nd, 2020 resolution of conditional approval. And be it further resolved that the Town of East Greenwich Planning Board hereby grants an extension for a period not to exceed 90 days to the applicant to satisfy conditions within the preliminary plat approval and file the final plat and supplementary documents in accordance with Article 4, Section 3 of the town subdivision regulations. Such conditional plat approval shall expire on April 18, 2021. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, Ralph
Second.
got Kurt again. Loaded the draw, Kurt.
Roll called as follows: Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway. Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
For the record, I keep putting my hand up in my face. This is a Star Wars Band-Aid. And I didn't realize I had it on until I just saw myself in the camera. My kid loves it. All right, next we're on the new business 2021 Sherman. Is that how you say Sherman? Start Avenue for a minor 2-lot subdivision. Do we have the applicant on board or on the meeting?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, so why don't you let us know what you're looking to do?
I got a piece of land on Start Avenue, and I got 150 feet of frontage, and I go 113 deep. What I'm looking to do is split this lot in half, meaning that I would have 75 by 113 on each lot, which meets all town requirements that I know of as far as the frontage and the square footage.
All right. Adam, can you give us a rundown of, your initial review?
Yeah, the they don't need, Mr. Sherman doesn't need a variance for this. The lots do conform to the area and bulk standards. I think there were a number of, I did put together a checklist reviewing this, and I think that was sent, I think, Mr. Sherman, you have that, correct?
Yeah, I got a whole bunch of papers here.
Okay.
I don't know.
And I think it may have been sent to your surveyor as well, but I think there were a number of kind of minor sort of comments that I had on the drawing itself. I think there is an issue with the EAF form. We needed we need that printout from the DEC system showing that that you use the DEC data. Looks like that might be John. I think the biggest issue, the biggest concern here is getting details for the proposed water and sewer connections. The main going down, the sewer main going through Start Ave it's a pretty substantial, I want to say it's an 18-inch sanitary main going to Corliss, and it's a pretty high flow piece of infrastructure. So, and I think Mr. Sherman's aware of that. The tap would need to be done in a certain way, most likely from the top. Similarly with the water system, we need some details in terms of how those connections are going to be made in order to get that stuff on the plans on the front end, as opposed to dealing with it on the back end, having Kevin, chase that around. But I think otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward minor 2-lot subdivision. It's on a town road. So really the only involved agencies are Rensselaer County Health. And, of course, this is going to connect to water and sewer. So they won't, there won't be any on-site facilities. And the Department of Public Works. Otherwise, I think I had one other comment, maybe Mr. Sherman, you could address now, is your proposed, the grading and drainage there. I know that slopes down to the south, I guess, to the back of the lots. But that neighborhood, not necessarily that street, but has experienced some substantial flooding in recent years. And I think that was one thing that was, your plan doesn't show any proposed contours. So wanted to see what your approach to grading and drainage is.
Well, I know on the back of the property there is a very small stream which is not on my property. But generally I usually put gutters up and would probably run that line out to almost to my end. I don't think legally I can drain it onto somebody else's property. But them lots are fairly flat. But definitely have a grade from the house, grading off to each side. And as far as the 18-inch sewer main, what do I get a hold of somebody in the town that's running the sewer department? Would they tell me how to detail this thing out?
Yeah, I think that would be a good start. I think if you have an engineer as well, we don't have right now. It's something we know is a gap, and we need to work toward, is just some standard details for these common connections.
Yeah.
But I think the commissioner and the department, we probably can work with you. They can work with you to identify that detail.
So is there a name I can contact?
Yeah, it's
down there?
Dan. Yeah, Commissioner of Public Works, Dan Fiacco. And that's something that we will reuse if we have to develop it too. It'll be useful in the future.
Right. And as far as the water main goes, I mean, the town water department always comes and makes the tap and gives you a shut off on your property line. So, I mean, I don't really have nothing to do with that part of it. The only part I do is hook up from the house to the shut off.
Yeah, so,
That's pretty standard anyways, when them guys dig that up. So,
right.
other
So I
other
think
than
for
getting
that,
that,
it sounds like
the
you're familiar.
sewer
with it.
line is the
I think
sewer
for
line
that-
is
Just reach out to the water department and get that, you're gonna have to get a permit, right? And they'll take care of
yeah.
it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we got to get a permit for both, but the sewer main is more of my concern because that's more of what I'm involved in. I mean, yeah, we get our inspection, but I would have to, I guess, call Dan Fiacco and he can give me some ideas on how my detail is. Typically, we use a saddle on that, but he might want something different, being how big it is.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just gonna run through the board quick and see if anyone has any comments or questions. Start with Ralph,
I have no questions. I'm fine.
Chris,
I'm fine, thanks.
Kurt,
I have a question related to the properties on either side of this small subdivision. What is the history of runoff and water issues in the spring and so on?
I'm guessing that it's so flat there. Any water kind of runs back to that small stream, which definitely crosses somebody else's property. It would go in that direction, but it's not like it's a steep hill or anything like that.
What I would ask is that the architect or the engineer firm is sensitive that if something eventually is built on these two properties, that it doesn't cause or give the impression that runoff is now traveling off this property to either side, creating an issue with the neighbors.
Right. I mean, I don't know if there is a storm drain out front,
Okay.
which could be connected to.
I think I'm pretty sure there is.
yeah, I think
Right.
that entire neighborhood off of Phillips Road is all piped.
Right, I know. I would have to get permission to tap into that, but that would be ideally to run in my gutters and my sump pump drain.
Yeah, we went through a significant effort off of Phillips Road, getting some pumps out of the sanitary lines and into the storm drain. So, yeah,
Right.
I wouldn't foresee an issue with you tying in there for storm drains. But that's a good point, Kurt. So, Adam, that's something we need to keep in mind.
Yeah, and to Kurt's point, if you look at the way the house is oriented on the lot, they have it to one side, so it's not centered in the home is not centered in the center of the lot. So you are going to get more runoff on each side from the roof. So it looks like that could be an issue, or something you may want to look into. Make sure there's
Right.
a berm or something, or some way to divert the water.
Yeah, so I'd say when you reach out to Dan Fiacco to talk about sanitary, bring that up as well, and get his opinion on tying into the drainage system.
One other quick point I want to bring up. Didn't we have an issue with the 911 address numbers down in that area? Are those lot numbers consecutive now? As far as just the home addresses, do you know, sir?
Well, I see on my survey, I'm right next door to number 15 Start Ave, and I'm next door to 25 Start Ave, which gives me a whole bunch of numbers in between.
Okay.
And on my tax bill, I don't have a 911 address.
Right. I knew there were some issues
which-
down in that area.
I think I called Rensselaer County before and got addresses like this, unless the town is doing it now. I'm not so sure.
I think the county takes care of it, but that is a very fair point. I mean, if I was a police
Right.
officer and I went to go find number 20 and I went from 15 to 25, that would be pretty damn confusing.
Yeah, just something just to
Yeah.
keep in mind.
Right, I don't know if they're gonna have me at 17 and 19. I mean, there's a bunch of ways they can go here. If they're gonna keep it an odd number on this side of the street, which would only make sense.
Might be 17 and a half.
Because it looks like originally it was five smaller lots that were encompassing this area, correct?
Right, they have an original survey from 1925,
Yeah.
but.
So I guess
And
that,
I almost got to believe that this lot was subdivided and then reconnected sometime in the past. Because why would everybody else be almost 75 in that neighborhood and then, it
Well,
just
that'd
seems
be-
a little weird.
that would make sense why it goes from 15 to 25, right? Because you go 15, 17, 19, 21,
Right.
23.
Right, that's how it was originally. So anyway, I just want to bring that point up, something just to keep in mind.
Thanks, Ralph. Don, do you have anything?
I'm okay.
John? Is he talking to us or is he talking to someone else? Yeah, we still can't hear you, John.
Am I muted? Oh,
Oh, there you go.
There you go,
All
yeah,
right.
have you got me?
yes.
Yeah.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah. All right. All right.
Oh,
I was just going to say
welcome to the planning board, John.
thank you. The only thing, my only concern on this would have been the drainage, I think, which we've discussed quite a bit here. We did have another property, I think maybe Adam recalls, at the zoning board down at the other end of the start, where we heard nothing but complaints about drainage on the street. So something to be mindful of.
Okay.
Sure. Appreciate that. Yeah, generally in the neighborhood, there's been, maybe not necessarily on this side, but on both sides of Phillips Road, there's been a lot of drainage issues.
Yeah, I think this is way downhill from Phillips, right? Is there a substantial slope there, or am I imagining it?
No, it's just before
Pretty
you
level?
get to that dip. You get to that dip in Phillips. It's the last street on the right.
Yeah, so it's
Right.
right before the
But
fire.
these lots are not really dipping off. They may have a little bit of slope to them, but not much.
Yeah.
And there's definitely land behind me before you get to that stream where ideally, yeah, you would drain into that, but you can't go over somebody else's land, obviously.
Right.
So hooking up to the front would be the way to go.
John, anything else?
No, that's it for me.
So, the action we were going to take tonight was to accept sketch plat potentially, take care of seeker and schedule a public hearing. Is anyone opposed to taking care of those? Okay. So we'll start with sketch plat. I'll make a motion that the Town of East Creamer's Planning Board hereby accepts the sketch plat dated January 18th, 2020, prepared by Cynthia Elliott, surveyor for the proposed 2-lot minor subdivision. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Kurt gave up. All right, second by Mr. Panton.
Roll call as follows. Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes,
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
Next, I'll make a motion to declare intent to seek lead agency. Planning board hereby determines that the project is an unlisted action under SECRA and hereby declares intent to seek lead agency status in connection with the coordinator review under SECRA. The planning board hereby directs that notices to all involved interested agencies requesting their consent to designate the planning board as lead agency for SECRA review of the project. The following involved or interested agencies under SECRA have been identified: the Rensselaer County Department of Health, the East Creamer's Fire Department, Town of East Greenbush, Department of Public Works. Do I have a second? Kurt, we got Kurt.
Roll call. to
There's always a way to game the system.
I thought you were gonna text me before I finished the motion.
Roll call as follows. Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
And finally, I'll make a motion that a public hearing is hereby scheduled for January 27, 2021 at the East Greenbush Town Hall or by virtual means at 7:00 PM. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is
Ralph,
that,
I got a thumbs up from Ralph.
is that going to be at the town hall though?
No, or I think it said or by Zoom meeting, isn't it? Or by virtual means. So it'll be
Okay.
over Zoom.
Roll call as follows. Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
All right. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you again soon.
So we're all set. I just got to get my details on the sewer main and probably check in with Allison on some of this unfinished paperwork.
That is correct. You have your public hearing scheduled for late January.
And Dave,
All
I
right,
just
so-
forwarded Cindy the email that I had originally sent you with the stuff that Adam, said need to be addressed on the map and stuff. So I'll just check in with her and make sure she gets the email, if you would.
All right, I can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dave,
All right,
feel
so
free to
we're-
have Cindy reach out to me if anything is unclear, or it probably can reduce some of the back and forth.
Yeah, I put Adam's
All right.
email in the note to Cindy, so I told her to reach
Great,
out to
thanks,
Adam.
Allison.
All right, good
All
enough.
right. Thank you very much.
All right, okay, good night.
So next we have, who's that? Next we have a town board referral for the B2 zoning text amendment for further discussion and potential recommendation. There's a church that's looking to build on the Onderdonk property right off of, there was a subdivision developed a number of years ago off of Onderdonk Avenue or Road. There's a church looking to build there, but it doesn't meet the zoning law, and the town board is looking to amend the zoning law to potentially allow that. So, I mean, that's the high level overview, and I think we've seen this before. So maybe I'll just jump in and see if anyone's got some questions. I'll start with Ralph. Or comments. I can't hear Ralph. Do anyone else?
I can't.
Ralph, are you on mute by chance?
Yeah.
Me now?
Yeah, now I got you.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm prepared to vote.
Okay. Next, I'll go on to Chris.
Yeah, I'm ready to vote also.
Go on to Kurt.
No questions.
Go on to Don.
No questions.
And finally, John.
Well, I think I do have a couple questions here, probably because I haven't been in on all the discussion that's gone before. I've tried to keep up with this as best I can through the newspapers and whatnot, but my concern really is with putting churches in this, what is it, the B2 zone? The thing about churches is there may be some logic to not doing this. And the thing about churches is that there's certain provisions in the law. For example, in our own law, the town zoning law, you couldn't have an adult entertainment establishment within 500 feet of a church. And of course, this is right across the street from the adult bookstore there on 9 and 20. not that I care about the adult bookstore, but I'm wondering if there are any other sort of provisions in the law that maybe we should be mindful of or think about. I know, like years ago, almost 40 years ago now, I was working for Buffalo Community Development, and we had rehabbed actually the Louis Sullivan building, the Prudential building in Buffalo. And the developer wanted to put a restaurant in his basement. And of course, they wanted a liquor license. And it turned out that they had to jump through a whole lot of hoops because you're not supposed to have a bar or a restaurant serving liquor an X number of feet of a church. So by just allowing churches, into the B2 zone, I wonder if we're creating some problems here, and maybe if we need to have something else in the language of the amendment that would allow the town to, allow churches in, but still, find a way around these requirements, these other requirements that could interfere. I wonder if that has come up before, or if we thought about it.
Yeah, John, you make some good points there. To my knowledge, I don't know of any other regulations in the zoning code that would necessarily prevent a location from a church. And at this point, we're really just talking about the amendment to the B2 zone as a whole. And then once we get a completed site plan from this proposed church on Onderdonk, we'll be able to dive into that a little bit further, I think, and just make sure everything is satisfactory with the town law.
Yeah. Do you know about that, the liquor license or anything like that? That might be a, I'm thinking it might be some sort of state code or, the state liquor authority or something.
Yeah, and not to my knowledge.
Well, down near the St. Mary's Church, they were proposing, this came up, I'm just going off memory, down near St. Mary's off 9 and 20, someone was looking at doing a brewery in the Burger King, and Kevin Hitchcock had researched it, and it was something to do with feet door to door between the brewery and the church itself, I think. Adam, do you remember that?
I do, and I think, John, I think you're right. I don't know the details, but I'm pretty sure that there is a provision in either the state liquor law or so. It's at the state level. It's not in the town law, I don't believe. I think I'm with Joe on that. But there is a court case in Port Jervis that fell under the RLUIPA, the federal legislation. It was challenged, and it actually was a result of the locality there changing their zoning from allowing churches to disallowing them because they wanted a brewery instead of a church. And the Department of Justice took issue with that.
And certainly any state or federal law that would prohibit, maybe one location, that's going to trump anything we approve here anyway. And we're not approving it. We're just generally saying.
Well, the point is, though, if you allow churches in that zone and people start, just to be ridiculous about it, people start putting churches at 9 and 20, is that going to drive out all the restaurants? I mean,
well, he raises a good
my
point.
preference would be for restaurants.
Yeah, there could be some other parcels that are nearby that could be at some point transformed and want to transform into a restaurant, and now you've got this limitation. So it may it sounds like it may require a little bit more digging into.
I know the town board wants to vote on it, but we're under no obligation to move forward if people want to have further discussion on it.
Joe, is there anything we could put in the language that would help us out in allowing the other businesses into B2?
If you want to propose some language and talk about it, we certainly can. Adam, do you know when the town board is supposed to meet next on this? They kept the public hearing open on this, correct?
Yeah, they'll continue the public hearing at next week's town board meeting at 7 o'clock.
I mean, one thing to keep in mind too is that churches are allowed in virtually every other zoning district. So they're allowed in the B1, they're allowed in the OC, they're basically allowed in every zoning district other than the industrial district. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're pressing to make this change is that we see that there's possibly a mistake or an error when passing the town law to not include churches in the B2.
Now, wasn't there also a federal law that was passed saying that you can't treat churches or religious entities differently than all other entities, and that was part of why this change needed to happen?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. That's right, Chris. In 2000, RLUIPA, what they call is the Religious Land Uses and Institutionalized Persons Act, basically requires that religious uses not be treated differently from non-religious uses, and that local regulation, including land use regulation, must be at least restrictive as possible, and there must be a compelling public purpose for any restrictions. So if the town has a compelling public purpose to exclude churches from the B2 zone and not the B1 zone and any of the other zones, then, I'd be all ears.
Yeah, well, in terms of the language, I was wondering if there was some value in maybe including some of the federal language in the local law so that it's clear that we're doing this in order to consider churches just like any other piece of property. If you say that, then that kind of would allow the location of whatever,
Yep, completely agree, John. We our resolution actually refers to a memorandum that Adam Yagelski had provided to the planning board back in December 9th, which basically sets forth a nice summary, talks about that law, goes through the background, the legal issues, and the planning board resolution refers to that memo and says that the planning board agrees with what's contained therein.
Yeah, I think I read that. Yeah.
So John, being that memo has referenced all that, are you comfortable with voting, or you still have apprehension?
Well, I have a little bit of apprehension. I mean, are we on a strict timetable here? Does anyone know what the board really needs here?
They
Go ahead.
wanted it a
Sorry.
month ago.
Yeah, we already pushed them out quite a while. They were pushing us to give a recommendation. And certainly next week they could, if we didn't do anything, they could vote on it anyway. But
Right.
we purposely pushed them out to make sure we thought this out. And that's where the memo came from and the resolution tonight.
But John, certainly if you don't feel comfortable or if you don't agree, you can always vote no, or because you are new on the board and maybe don't have necessarily the background that you wish to have, you can always abstain.
Yeah, okay. I can abstain. Yeah, like I say, I haven't been in on the full discussion there, and I'm not sure that Adam's memo, as well as it's written, really answers all of my concerns. But so I'll probably abstain if that's all right.
Yeah, anyone's free to vote however they want.
Yeah.
Everyone could vote no if that's the case. I don't even know how anyone else is going to vote. They just said I just wanted to pool people and see if they're ready to vote.
Well, I didn't have any issues until this point was brought up, and it's not going to affect any current businesses if the church is built there, but I'm just wondering what it would do to the other parcels that are nearby. Are we limiting the possibilities, especially, in that area, we are trying to promote, the B2 zone, and we're trying to get, some type of movement there on 9 and 20. let's say, for example, where the Napa store is, for some reason, that gets sold to a Applebee's or something like that, or a restaurant or whatever, and having a church here, is it going to limit them the ability to sell alcohol? That's my question. I don't know what the distance regulations are. Is that something that we can get our hands on fairly quick, Joe, or are we talking,
I know.
lots away, or what?
Kevin knows it. It's a linear, I forget what the distance is, but it's a linear distance from front door to front door.
Well, was the Burger King site, was that allowable? Did that meet that requirement?
I think it did. It just didn't meet our zoning requirements.
Okay, all right, because that's an adjacent lot, and that, if you're saying that didn't have any effect, then I guess the point is mute. I just don't know, didn't know what the distance was.
Adam, that was my recollection, correct? They didn't meet the zoning, but it wasn't an issue of, we discussed the distance of being able to serve alcohol versus the church, right?
Yeah, I think they would have been allowed under that distance rule, that separation. But yeah, I think it was the on-site, the brewing itself there. We didn't have a really good use classification for that
Right.
sort of small scale artisanal type production,
Yeah, they weren't serving food, right?
Well, I think the law has to have some bite to it. Otherwise, you'd see bars built around right next door to all churches. So it seems to me like that distance requirement may be a little bit farther than we're thinking. Because why would they even enact something like that if they didn't move it, if they didn't have the boundary far enough to where it definitely kept, bars and adult bookstores and whatever from being next door to a church of sorts. I don't want to belabor this, but I think it's a point that John raised that I just I'm not sure I feel I don't want to hold up the town board, but I think it's something that we really should think about and make sure that we're covered for future development around the areas, and not just necessarily there, but like John said, they could put a church in a 9 and 20 next to Fashion Care, and all of a sudden that puts Quigley's out from being a bar, so to speak. I mean, that could happen.
How do we get the facts on something like this? I mean, that yes, it will be restrictive, or no, it won't, as long as the distance is so many feet. Because again, I think Ralph and John did raise a good point on that too. All of a sudden, we're promoting the businesses, and then we've limited it because of some distance that none of us really know. How do we close on the facts?
I think the distance question, I think the building department can provide to us. So if
I just did some quick research, and it appears that New York State has a 200-foot rule, which prohibits liquor licenses from being issued to establishments located on the same street and within 200 feet of a building that is used exclusively as a school, church, synagogue, or other place of worship. The 200-foot rule applies to liquor only. The New York State Liquor Authority can issue a wine and beer license within 200 feet of a school or place of worship.
Okay, so that's a total of 500 feet, 250 on each side. And across the street, right? So you got a big circle now.
I would think so, yeah.
I guess I'm wondering if conversely, this could be approved that a church could move into this zone, but if so, they give up the condition of these other constraints.
Yeah, but that's
right. The federal legislation is based on the fact that the church is like every other property.
Right.
And if that were true, I'd have absolutely no problem with it. But there are certain other provisions that come with being a church.
Yeah, and the problem is we couldn't, and Joe knows this better than I, but if it's state law,
You can't ask the applicant doesn't have the authority to just waive state law. It's just not doable. But in terms of this proposal on Underdock, I think they would be well back from 200 feet from Columbia Turnpike anyway.
Right, I agree that this specific site, we won't have an issue, but there could be some other areas where this could create a problem. Does it also? Does it also?
Well, if you're
affect the
talking
sale
door to
of
door,
alcohol? Not only the consumption, but also the sale of alcohol, Joe?
Yeah.
Both? Okay.
But I think also too, it would only work one way. So if there's an existing bar or restaurant or liquor store and a church wants to come in and build there, then the rule wouldn't apply because the beer establishment already in existence.
Correct. Like I said, it's only going to affect anything in the future.
Right.
It is a fair point. I mean, what if, Route 9 and 20 News and Video really snuck in under the 2008 zoning law? What if they had some developer that wanted to buy them out and turn into a restaurant? I don't mean an adult restaurant. I mean, totally change the use and become a restaurant.
That I think Joe's point about the B1 and the other districts allowing it. I mean, what we're talking about here is a much wider analysis, and that would involve, also the residential districts along that are close to 9 and 20 as well. That might affect what's allowed on 9 and 20 and the other commercial districts.
that's a good point. Yeah.
Which is what we're doing, right? We're coming up with a new zoning law.
Yeah, and that's what
the advice that I've seen on this, that our special counsel and town attorney, rendered is, there are the best religious uses have a privilege under this law that is robust, and that excluding churches, even from a zone like an industrial zone, is something that the town should take and consider very seriously, because that's a heavy hand, and the idea is the excluding that type of use is just, it's not going to hold up if it's challenged under RLUIPA.
Yeah, and I think we are taking this extremely seriously. That's why I've been talking about it for so long, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying, yes.
I don't know. It doesn't sound like we, after this spirited conversation, which I do appreciate everyone shoving in here, it doesn't sound like we're ready to vote, but I guess I'll roll through and ask people again. Ralph?
I would vote, but with some hesitation.
Okay. Chris?
I'm ready to vote.
Kurt?
I prefer not to, until we get everything in concrete that says yes, no, and so on.
Don?
How far back is the church from 9 and 20? For beginning factors here, I just wanted to know.
It's a big parcel, and the lot's the building is almost up near the cemetery.
So it's more than 200 feet.
Yeah, but that's not the issue at hand. The issue at hand is what are future implications of changing the zoning law.
Yeah, I'm concerned about that too. It'd be hard to vote without more information. Really would.
So John, I think I know what your answer is. You prefer not to vote. So.
Well, at this point, I was intending to abstain. Yeah. So
I'm inclined to try and get more information and vote on this at the next meeting. Adam, were they planning to vote on this at the town board?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
one thing. Go ahead.
I mean, the downside is if we vote and, ends up being 3-3 or, whatever it might be, they're going to end up with a negative recommendation. Not a negative recommendation. They're not going to have a positive recommendation from the planning board. So,
Right, but they still can vote. They can vote.
yeah,
with-
they're more than welcome to vote. They don't, Joe, they don't need a recommendation from us, right?
No, but I will let you know that under the zoning law, that if the town board, or I'm sorry, if the planning board fails to make a report to the town board within 30 days, it shall be deemed to be a favorable recommendation. That's in section 4.4B2 of the town's comprehensive zoning law. So keep that in mind too.
So meaning what? So they reached out to us saying they want a recommendation?
Yep, which they did back in December. Over 30 days have passed. So essentially what I'm saying is if the town board doesn't want to wait, they can go ahead and do their vote. And since the planning board never made a recommendation, it would be deemed favorable.
Well, with that, I mean, I would say let's vote on it in that case, right? Because it can just go ahead and do it, and it's not gonna matter. I'd rather have people's opinions expressed to the town board.
Right. I think the point we're trying to make is we're not against churches in the B2 zone. We're just, I'm just questioning what are we going to limit ourselves to future development if a church does build in the B2 zone and we get an applicant that does meet the B2, is he going to be limited or is he going to be denied the ability to build or to develop something because a church is already there?
Yeah,
I'm not against the churches in B2 zone.
no, I completely agree. I just, based on Joe's point, if it's, next week they're gonna vote and it's been over 30 days, they can just consider it a positive recommendation from the planning board, which, Adam, that should come out of the next zoning law. That just seems ridiculous. But,
Yeah.
I mean, they just force, I mean, our hand is forced at this point to vote. So I wouldn't mind voting if we end up with a split vote. I mean, I think that might be the first time we have a split vote in about 6 years.
We don't want 2021 with a split vote.
I think what I heard though, which is swaying me at this point, is that this could be contested by a church in the future if we say no, and that they would likely win. Is that what I heard, Joe?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris. I had trouble hearing you.
That this could be contested by a church in the future if they are not allowed, if they're being treated differently in this.
Yes, it could. Yes.
So to me, that's an unfortunate situation. But if you couple that with the fact that the current opportunity that we're looking at really won't have any issue because of the setback on Underdog, that where they reside, and it's, I guess, less likely, though a possibility, but less likely that there's really going to be development inhibited because of a new church coming in on like 9 and 20. I just think that it's you put those factors together, and we may as well go ahead and approve it.
Yeah, I think we're going to make a motion to vote on it, and certainly, I mean, no one feel the need to vote yes, vote no. It's just a motion, doesn't require anyone to vote either way. Joe's point, hold on one second. Joe's point both bothers me and just makes me want to know that the planning board's voice has been heard on the topic. Because if, knowing that at this point, if we do nothing tonight, it just says the planning board had a favorable recommendation. I mean, frankly, and I know I'm on a Zoom meeting, I'm being recorded, I think it's bullshit, but.
Now that's just what the law says. It doesn't mean that in reality, the town board is going to necessarily receive nothing from the planning board and think that you had favorable opinions on it. I was just resuscitating what the town law, zoning law actually says.
Yeah,
But I don't want to take the chance either.
I agree though, Matt, that our voice should be heard on this. And I'm just not sure what other information at this point is, would be helpful.
Yep.
Because it sounds like we, if we can't go down the path of making an exemption to the 200-foot rule for churches, because that's New York State law, then it is what it is. And we just have to make a decision based on future development opportunities potentially being lost, or if we don't think that's a likely scenario. And we do know that a church could protest this and then get into legal battles with the town.
I'm wondering, this might sound crazy, but why not? Could this be a special use under the zoning law, a church, so that each one would have to be individually sort of approved?
Interesting.
Well, they're all gonna have to be approved anyway, because they're gonna have to go through site plan approval.
But my feeling is that I have no problem with a church being built in the B2. It's the fact after, once the church is there,
Yeah.
now you're limiting all the other surrounding parcels, the ability to develop in accordance to the B2 zone. That's my concern. I have no concern with the church in the B2 zone whatsoever. But once it's there, once it's built, then you're limiting any other adjacent properties the opportunity to build something there or develop something there that isn't in fact acceptable in the B2 zone.
Is
But all this, I went roundabout in a circle, and I think our only recourse, I'm just going to vote yes.
question, is alcohol the only restriction, or are there other uses of property near a church that are not allowed?
I'm sure there's plenty. Who knows? They're proposing legalizing marijuana. Who knows what the future brings.
That's a good question, Chris, and I don't know off the top of my head. We can certainly add a paragraph in the resolution, which recommends that the town board look into it further before passage. I just drafted up something quick here.
I actually like that idea. So,
Yeah.
Well, we might make a favorable recommendation, but that gets our voices heard a little more. That the town, we recommend that the town board take a little more time and do their research. Not that
Because of these restrictions. Yeah, that sounds good, actually.
Yeah, so how about a paragraph to include in the resolution that says the planning board recommends the town board take into account any applicable state laws regarding the distance of certain establishments to religious uses.
Yeah, can you text that to me?
Yeah.
And the impact that would have on future development.
Yeah, that's key. That's key to I think to the whole thing.
Ralph, I was so ready to give up, and look at this collaboration we had to start 2021.
No, and that's what I think. I think that's what makes us what we are. Is I think we really think through things, and it's an issue that we don't want it to come back and bite us in the tail 5 years from now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I wasn't, I certainly wasn't blowing smoke early in the meeting when I was telling John that, I think we have a really strong board. This was a
John, your first day and you added a lot of value.
Yeah. Yes.
Created some headaches though. Sorry about that.
It's more
Done
value.
Not at all value. It's value.
How far back is the church? Does anybody know exactly how far back it is?
It's far. It's a very large site, and it's towards the back of the site. Right, Adam?
Well, there's another factor here. Most of your businesses that would want to come in would be wanting to be along 9 and 20. They're not going to move their restaurant way back in. So that's another factor.
Who knows what people come up with though? someone could have a 20-person church.
Hmm.
I don't think it's necessarily done. This particular church that we're worried about, it's the future implications of other churches that may look, because we're changing the zoning law overall.
Yeah, I was thinking about restaurants along 9 and 20.
All right, Matt, I just sent that to you.
All right, before anyone else changes their mind, I'm gonna make a motion. All right, so I'm gonna make a motion for recommendation to the town board. In accordance with section 4.4.1B of the town's comprehensive zoning law, the planning board hereby favorably recommends adoption of the town board's proposed amending section 2.7.3B of the comprehensive zoning law to prohibit that religious facilities be permitted use within the commercial business district B2. In making this recommendation, the planning board has reviewed, among other documents, the town's comprehensive zoning law, the town's comprehensive master plan, and a memorandum to the planning board dated December 3rd, 2020 from the town's director of planning and zoning, Adam Yagelski, which recommends a favorable adoption of the proposed amendment. The board hereby attaches Mr. Yagelski's memorandum for reference and agrees with the opinions contained therein. In making this recommendation, the planning board finds that such change does not conflict with the general purposes, goals, and the intent of this local law, and such change is consistent with the town's comprehensive zoning law. The planning board recommends that the town board take into account any applicable state laws regarding distance of certain establishments to religious uses and the impact that they may have on future development. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Penn.
Roll call as follows. Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes, but I could you just read the one sentence over again, Matt, where it says that we don't feel there will be any impact to future development?
Kind of just
That's
read
what
these
it said.
things and I don't know what's pay attention.
I'm wondering if
Oh,
that,
wait, the last thing I read?
No, it's
Yeah.
right over the last thing Joe put in there.
Oh, the planning board recommends that the town board take into account any applicable state laws regarding the distance of certain establishments to religious uses and the potential impact it may have on future development.
if you go back, I thought part of what you read said that we feel that there will not be any adverse effect to future development or.
Right. It was early in the beginning part.
Yeah.
You're right, Chris. You're right.
Couple sentences or so, 2 or 3 sentences before.
Yeah,
There are sentences that say that such change does not conflict with the general purposes, goals, and intent of the local law, and that such change is consistent with the comprehensive master plan. Is that what you're talking about, Chris?
Yeah. A little bit farther. Huh?
specific than that.
Making this recommendation, the planning board finds that such change does not conflict with the general purposes, goals, and intent of this local law. Such change is consistent with the town's comprehensive master plan.
Keep going.
Well, that's it. Then I read the text. The planning board recommends that the town board take into account any applicable state laws regarding the distance of certain establishments to religious uses and the impact they may have on future development.
I honestly think it was like a sentence or 2 before what you just started.
Yes, yeah, I agree. It gave me pause when you read it.
Yeah, it did, me
Wait a
too.
minute, wait a
Making
minute.
this
that-
recommendation, the planning board has reviewed, among other documents, the comprehensive zoning law, comprehensive master plan, and memorandum of the planning board dated December 3rd, 2020, from the town's director of planning and zoning, Adam Yagelski, which recommends favorable adoption of the proposed amendment. The board hereby attaches Mr. Yagelski's memorandum for reference and agrees with the opinions contained therein. In making this recommendation, the planning board finds that such change does not conflict with the general purposes, goals, and intent of this local law, and such change is consistent with the town's comprehensive zoning plan or comprehensive master plan. And then I read the text. The planning board recommends that the town board take into account any applicable state laws regarding the distance of certain establishments to religious uses and the impact they may have on future development. I may have read the text wrong.
No, it wasn't in the text. It was earlier on. I don't know how early. Maybe it
There
was.
was only one other paragraph before that. In accordance with section 4.4.1.b of the town's comprehensive zoning law, the planning board hereby favorably recommends adoption of the town board proposal amending section 2.7.3B of the comprehensive zoning law to provide that religious facilities be a permitted use within the commercial business district. And that's the only other paragraph. The rest, I've read everything else again.
Okay. So at the end of that sentence, then it goes right into the next part that you already read.
And then, yep, into that sentence, then it goes in, and in making the rest of the recommendation, the planning board has reviewed, among other documents, the town's comprehensive zoning law, the town's comprehensive master plan, and a memorandum to the planning board dated December 3rd, 2020. So I've read everything multiple times now. Maybe I read it wrong. I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever I heard, maybe I heard it wrong, but it's.
No, I heard it too, Chris. I know what you're.
I mean, I just didn't know if there, maybe there needs to be something inserted a little bit sooner that we recommend, with the caveat that the town, take a deeper look into the implications, or, whatever Joe's text, instead of just tagging it.
So, well, what we can say is with the following condition, if that works, and then add that language that Joe sent me. All right, I'm gonna reread this.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
Because by the time we get all the way to the end of it, everybody's already heard it and saying, oh, they approve it. And, I think I'm just afraid they're going to stop listening at that point.
I'm gonna turn my camera off because I get my head really close when I'm reading this. Okay, I make a motion that in accordance with section 4.4.1.b of the town's comprehensive zoning law, the planning board hereby favorably recommends adoption of the town board proposal amending section 2.7.3b of the comprehensive zoning law to provide that religious facilities be permitted use within the commercial business district B2. In making this recommendation, the planning board has reviewed, among other documents, the town's comprehensive zoning law, the town's comprehensive master plan, and a memorandum to the planning board dated December 3rd, 2020 from the town's director of planning zoning, Adam Yagelski, which recommends a favorable adoption of the proposed amendment. The board hereby attaches Mr. Yagelski's memorandum for reference and agrees with the opinions contained therein. In making this recommendation, the planning board finds that such change does not conflict with the general purposes, goals, and intent of this local law, and such change is consistent with the town's comprehensive master plan. The planning board does add, Joe, what did I say I was going to do? Oh, does add the following condition. The planning board, East Greenwich Planning Board recommends that the town board take into account any applicable state laws regarding the distance of certain establishments to religious uses and the impact they may have on future development. Do I have a second?
Well, actually, could it be state or other laws? Because I think you still have that, adult entertainment thing within our own zoning code. They may not care about it, but.
No, that's good. That's a good point, John.
So it'll be any applicable federal, state, or local laws regarding the distance of certain establishments to religious uses and the impact they may have on future development. Does that work?
Yep.
Do I have a second?
Good.
Second.
Second by Ms. Lauren.
Roll call as follows: Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Motion carried by a 6-0 vote.
All right. So I'm talking about. It's only
Very good.
Wednesday.
Thank you.
Nice
Only
job.
Wednesday.
Nice job.
More than I've read all week.
You thought we were going to be split.
That's good leadership. Brought us all together.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Next, we go to discussion on the Hudson Valley Greenway for a proposed parking area and trailhead behind the East Greenwich Town Hall in Hampton Manor. Adam, what do you got? Don't steal the thunder we have going so far, Adam.
So there's the Albany Hudson Electric Trail officially opened last month. The town has partnered with the Greenway throughout the process. A need was identified for a parking area behind Town Hall. The parking area would be constructed and designed by the Greenway. It would be used primarily as a trailhead, but it also would be serve as overflow parking for town hall, you know, on the off hours when the trail isn't open. There are 3 alternatives that the Greenways consultant, GPI, worked up. After a discussion earlier this week with the Greenway, their consultant, Commissioner of Public Works, myself, we have essentially settled on alternative 3 for several reasons. One, ease of maintenance, especially snow removal. The other, it has the lowest amount of impervious surface, thereby it also reduces cost for for construction. So we're in front of the board with this tonight to get your thoughts on that. They're going to do a little bit of drainage work, probably going to add some benches, most likely some stones like they're found along the trail now. There will be some signage to, you know, denote that it's a trailhead parking area. The Commissioner of Public Works may make a few other improvements along that southerly town hall line, like replacing that fence, that chain link fence. In fact, also one thing to mention on the drainage, the Greenway has agreed to do what they're doing out there on Point View Drive, I believe it is, installing dry wells in order to infiltrate as much as possible of the stormwater that might be generated by this increase in impervious surface. So Greenway is going to give us probably about $90,000 worth of parking lot. And we wanted to get your input on that. Kevin Hitchcock is taking a look at it as well from his standpoint as a building inspector. I can share the screen with the plans if you like.
Yeah, option 3, you know, with a one way in and one way out really made sense. The angle parking works very well. If anybody's going to any of these other parking lots, a lot of these vehicles have the racks for their bikes on the back. And when you have parking that's at a 90-degree angle or right next to each other, you got a lot of issues pulling in and out. So the angle parking, I think, works really well. The only comment I have is that where the handicap parking is located, it's a fairly sharp turn. When you come in, the handicap parking is right there on the left. And some of those vans that you see the handicap people using, I'm not sure they can make that sharper turn. Those are the 3 comments that I have.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, just generally not, I don't know if I don't have any comments on the different options. If they're going to give us 90 grand, I'm open to anything. I've been really impressed with the number of people that have been using the trail. I've used it many times with my kids, taking my dog for a walk, you know, pulled them in a trailer on there. And I think having trailheads is really important. And I think they'll be utilized. So you know, whatever option, people have a strong opinion, whatever option the people who've been working on it have, I would support it.
How close is the actual trail? I haven't looked.
It's kind of where that's kind of where it starts, heading up toward, you know, in the town. It goes off Sherwood Ave, right, Adam?
Yeah, it's on road there. It's actually on the trail.
Okay, so it's not too far from the trailhead then, right?
Oh, it's right there.
Okay.
This would be a new trailhead on the trail, which is on road at that portion. I think 2 blocks to the north or so at the end of Southern, the whatever direction, southerly part of southeastern end is where the off-road portion starts.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's unfortunate there's not more trailheads to utilize. I think Ralph was saying that you've walked a large section or a lot of sections of it, right?
Yeah, definitely. And we're always looking for
we have 2.
area, so it's definitely needed.
Yeah.
I think it's very needed as well. The one thought that came to mind is, since this is one of the few trailheads and we really don't have much data yet since this trail is so new. We don't know how popular the trailheads will become. I think of some trailheads up in the Adirondacks that, man, if you're not there at 6, 7 in the morning, you know, there's no hope of even getting into them. And I just wonder if there will be any overflow that's going to impede town hall business if people start using this trailhead, you know, and that parking gets filled up, and then people start parking in town hall to use the trailhead. If there's going to be any issue with that, you know, I hope the trail gets used that frequently. But that was just the one thing that made me start thinking about, you know, and again, I'm biased thinking about how some of the trailheads up in the Adirondacks get so overloaded all the time. And I didn't know why behind town hall was selected as opposed to other places that maybe wouldn't have the overflow into town hall.
It's just gonna be a problem on court night.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, generally town hall is 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday, right? So it's
Yeah,
that's not gonna be the most popular time for people to be on the trail. I mean,
that's true. Yeah,
even the evening or on Saturday and Sunday seems to be the most popular time.
that's a good point.
It's really a bad spot to park if you're going to the town hall though, because it's quite a hike up the hill and up the stairs.
It's a good spot though, because the people that do lose their license can ride home on their bike.
But that was my only comment, Adam, is the way that is the 2 handicap spots I thought should be on the other side of the parking of the, you know, when you pull in. You may want to look at that and relocate them to the other side.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I will forward.
I was gonna say, maybe you can share that with GPI.
Yep, will do.
So we heard from Ralph, Chris, Kurt, do you have any comments?
No, I'm good.
John?
I'm good.
John?
said I'm
I like the alternative 3, and yeah, I'm good.
All right, everyone good with voting? And is anyone opposed to voting? We're just making a recommendation. It's, you know, certainly nothing official. It's just throwing our support behind the, you know, trailhead.
Do we know if there's going to be any security cameras? I couldn't see that, but it's my bad eyesight. Maybe it's there.
There's some on town hall, but I doubt they'd be installing more for that location, but Adam would know better.
Yeah, that hasn't come up yet. We did talk about lighting.
It would be pretty ballsy to do something behind the police station.
The cameras and lighting, I guess I was thinking lighting as well.
So Adam, maybe you can share that comment as well.
It's pretty sketchy back there at night, to be honest with you.
How do you know?
Well, I'm a lot older than you, Matt.
All right, if everyone's good, I'm going to make a motion and recommendation to the town board. The planning board has reviewed the proposed plan and design alternatives for the construction of a trailhead facility and related improvement to be installed on a portion of the town hall parcel in connection with the Albany Hudson Electric Trail pursuant to its authority under section 4.3.5 of the comprehensive zoning law. The planning board hereby recommends that the town board authorize the completion of design and construction of the proposed trailhead as shown on the pull-through angled spots alternative design. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ralph.
Roll call as follows.
You say my name? If so, yes.
Yeah, sorry. Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes,
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Motion carried by a 6-0 vote.
December 9th minutes, John can't vote, right? Who else? Anyone?
I
No,
can't.
everybody else can vote.
All right.
Or can I vote? That's the one I missed, isn't it?
You're right. You can't vote. You did miss. Yep.
You shouldn't have fessed up at the start of the meeting, Kurt. John, we'll let you vote next time.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
Allison, again, some of your best work, some of the best reading I've done in 2021.
Yeah, that was fun seeing as I didn't make the meeting. That YouTube recording was pretty interesting with some missing time and but I got it figured out, so it just took a while.
All right, it's like a puzzle. You just got to put it together.
Exactly.
What's in the mug? Just kidding. I make a motion to approve the December 9th, 2020 planning board meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Horn.
Roll call as follows. Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Dane,
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Abstain.
Motion carried by a 4-0-2 vote.
You guys are fighting to second at the start of the meeting. We get to 8:30 and all of a sudden no one wants to say anything. All right, well, I think that's good enough for our first meeting in 2021. Look forward to working with you all again for the rest of the year until they fire me. Let's see if I get this right and we'll start the year off correctly. I'm going to make a motion to close the meeting. Is that right, Joe?
Well done.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, everyone have a great night. See you in a few.
Thanks.
Talk-
Good night.
All right,
Good night,
thank you.
Night, everybody.
All.